Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and tonight we're going to be looking at flying monsters, flying humanoids, flying atmospheric beasts, things that aren't human that fly through the sky. We're going to have some fun tonight, and we're going to have some fun tonight. First, but first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. Here is my extreme 90s cover. This cover I did for my graphic novel Scumdogs to basically harken back and bring you back to the 90s with the extreme comics that were being produced back then. Scumdogs is a parody comic book. I parody the cartoons from the 80s. You'll see a lot of characters that will remind you of watching Saturday morning cartoons, only turned up to 11. Now, the Scumdogs, who they are, they're former pro athletes, because in the future, because of transhumanism, because of cybernetics and genetic engineering, a bunch of people turned themselves into monsters that compete in sporting events known as the Scumdog Sports. They're called Scumdogs because they're scum and dogs for trading in their humanity for money. You know, they transform themselves for fame and fortune to become rich and famous. So they turn themselves into monsters either through magic or science. They're led by Deathmug. He's the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's based on various villains from 80s cartoons. If you notice his face, how it's a skull, a metal skull, which looks very much he looks like Skeletor from He-Man, because, they were both skull-faced guys. But if you notice, it's also a metal mask that looks a lot like the metal mask worn by the villain of G.I. Joe, Cobra Commander. You can see him fighting his arch enemy, Buick Starpoon, over here, the guy with the pink pompadour hair. Now, Buick Starpoon leads his team, the Wild Rangers, which are basically G.I. Joe parodies crossed over with Star Wars and Star Trek. If you notice his uniform, the green-white uniform he's wearing, it looks like something from Star Trek. That's because they're also parodies of space opera and stuff like that, space opera characters. Buick Starpoon himself is a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe, Han Solo, and Captain Kirk. Yeah, now that his team, the Wild Rangers, is basically a G.I. Joe parody, that means they also each have a military specialty. If you know anything about G.I. Joes, each G.I. Joe would have military specialties, a bunch of skills and abilities that would allow them to fight their enemies and enemies and stuff. So each of my Wild Rangers also has military specialties. Over here, this guy with the mohawk and the darker blue uniform, his name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he was part of the United States Army and was a soldier. Then he joined up with the Wild Rangers, the Rangers and stuff. Over here we have this bald guy with a gun down here and the lighter blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine. Then you have this guy back here in the red uniform driving that vehicle, firing off his missiles. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. You get the joke? Or you get something like that? Now, let's go over here and look at another character. Here we have Girl Friday. Girl Friday is basically a parody on the Girl Friday archetype kind of character. Basically, if you know anything what a Girl Friday is, it's usually a female soldier that's in love with her superior officer. The joke here is that Girl Friday pretty much hates Buick Starpoon's guts. Girl Friday was assigned to the Wild Rangers to basically babysit them, because while the Wild Rangers fight the Scumdogs and save the universe, they're also complete morons who do a lot of collateral damage. Now, Deathmug is an overblown, arrogant dictator who wants to rule the universe after he was banned from the Scumdog Sports, and him and the rest of the Scumdogs. While Buick Starpoon is an overblown, egotistical military maniac who never listens to anyone and stuff like that, who basically fights the Scumdogs. Now, because of that, him and his team get usually over it and cause a lot of collateral damage to the surrounding area. So Girl Friday was assigned as his second in command, and she hates his guts because she thinks he's an idiot. Over here, we have Deathmug's henchmen. Basically, in all 80s cartoons, any supervillain in each cartoon would have henchmen who would be on his side, who would do his bidding, and usually they'd be complete morons. These are my morons. The big, fat, pink guy down here with shape-shifting powers is Sloppy. And the blue guy with the top hat up here is Murder Mouth. These guys are basically a parody of Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay? But you're going to love them when you read about them in my graphic novel. Here we have Hair Metal Doctor, who's another member of the Scumdogs. As you saw, most of the Scumdogs are monsters. Hair Metal Doctor was hired by Deathmug to be his mad scientist. Think of all the machines they can use to try and take over the universe. So he's not a scumdog, but he joined up with them basically because he was being paid. He's a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as Dr. Mindbender, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist is also a hair metal musician. Then we have Miss Rusty Melons, who's basically a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. One of those female spy type characters, you know, a femme fatale villainess, villainess, you know, one of those sexy villainous characters. The joke here is that Miss Rusty Melons here is basically a stupid blonde girl from California. You know, she's one of those classic dumb blondes, but she was originally the CEO of her own company, and basically was rich and bored and joined up with the Scumdogs because she wanted to have fun. Okay, I told you about my characters. It gives you an idea. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Remember, the there in the title is misspelled. It's spelled T-H-E-R-E. So you put Read Comics They're Bad For You, okay? If you want to watch this live stream again, go to my YouTube channel. Go to past live streams, or you can use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777megachris1. That's at 777megachris1. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm. And that means my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out all the sooner. I work on my book every day, folks. Hit that notification bell. Hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. All right. We told you about my characters and stuff like that. Now I think I'll go and show you some Indiegogos real quick before we look at flying monsters. All right, let me go down here. We'll go to Thin Blue Line first. Mike Baron's new book. Thin Blue Line has made $22,161. It's got 23 days left. You can back this book for the digital version for $10, but you can get the print version for $25. It's 56 full color pages, proudly printed in the USA, and looks great, folks. Let's go look at this trailer now.
Beginning with issue number 1, Mike Baron wrote Marvel's The Punisher for over 5 years. Approaching it as a straight crime comic, without any superheroes, aliens, or robots. Over the course of 60 issues, Baron elevated the gritty anti-hero into one of the most popular and enduring characters in the Marvel Comics universe. Now he brings that same ultra-realistic intensity to his latest graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. In the middle of a long, hot summer, a police shooting ignites a city. Activists, opportunists, and provocateurs descend to riot, loot, burn, and kill. Thin Blue Line follows Officer Valeria Baca and her partner as their detail guarding the mayor turns into a battle for survival. Ride along on this harrowing tale of two brave law enforcement officers fighting for their community and their own survival in a world gone mad. Eisner winner Mike Baron has created an alarming tale that unflinchingly examines human fallibility on every level. Along with penciler Joe Arnold, himself a full-time police officer, and talented anchor Jeff Slemons, they've created a moving and entertaining story ripped straight from today's headlines. Thin Blue Line exposes the defund the police movement and its consequences for society, but several comic book companies have refused to publish it. Now we're asking you to join the effort to distribute it independently and help support the men and women of law enforcement. Get your copy of the only graphic novel to offer an unflinching and not always flattering look at the men and women of law enforcement during a time when we need them the most. Not all heroes wear capes.
That's Thin Blue Line, folks. Go back it up. It's up on Indiegogo. This is Mike Baron's new book. It looks great. I'm probably going to back this myself because I really want this book. Now, folks, we also have Marks by Andy Rodman, to a 228-page book. He has carved a path of blood throughout history, bringing death to the wicked. Beware. This comic contains adult themes, bad language, and extreme violence. Need I say more? Need I say anything else? Death is his nature, not an operate of choice, and he's wrought it throughout all of history, ever present but always forgotten. His gift and his curse. Now in London, England, he's on a bloody collision course with another mortal beast. Marked is a fully completed 220-page Nor graphic novel. Oh, I've always loved. Great. Marked graphic novel, $29 USA. It's GBB. It's from another country then. Huh? A marked graphic novel and sketch, $47. Not bad. How long is this trailer?
I have lived too long. I have seen man emerge from the caves into the light and struggle to survive in the hardships of a brutal world. I've seen empires rise and fall, countries united and in chaos. Seen good men suffer whilst the wicked prosper. I've gazed into the eyes of evil and taken its measure. I've seen so much I wish not to. Let no man tell you immortality is a gift. All I have loved has died before me and crumbled to dust in my hands. Anywhere I called home has been ravaged by the ages, burning under time's relentless march forward till nothing remained but a whisper of what may have been. I am alone, so tired. I want to die, but that's not my choice to make. Footsteps. He is walking into the alley behind me. I knew he would. Evil knows evil. His pace quickens. He'll be on me in moments. I will not react. Yet. Then the violence starts.
You're fucking running now. Got you, catch you, fuck you up.
He spits the words with rage and threat, intended to induce terror. I just smile. He never really had a chance. Thank you for watching the promo for my comic. Here is the shameless plot.
Yep, looks pretty good. That's marked. Go get back it. It's a pretty long book and it looks great. It looks great, folks. Go back it. It's up on Indiegogo. All right, we've been 12 minutes in. I think now I'll move over here and, well, we'll go over look at some flying monsters. Not flying humanoids, flying creatures. We'll be looking at those stories tonight, folks. This is basically a cryptid corner, basically dealing with these kinds of creatures. It's been a while since I talked about flying creatures. We'll also talk about flying atmospheric beasts, maybe UFOs who might possibly be actual flying creatures and stuff like that. Get the idea? So, come along with me and we'll have some fun tonight. Okay, folks? Feel free to leave me a few chats. Let's get Utah's aerial anomalies, flying giant manta rays, winged humanoids, and monster birds. I recently received a telephone call from a couple in Provo, Utah, who received the giant flying manta, referenced the giant flying manta ray that has been seen in the area. I decided to go back and find other flying anomalies reported in Utah. Ooh. I was visiting my then fiance, now wife, in northern Arizona. I lived in Idaho at the time. I was making the trip back late at night. And for those who don't know, there are two major highways along the Idaho to Arizona route. US 15 that goes through Idaho and into Utah, and then US 89 that goes from Utah to Arizona. Now, there is a mountain pass that connects these two highways. Route 20, and this is where it all happened, giving location in case anyone is familiar with the area. So my trip, I was headed back north, and I was along this Route 20, the road through the mountain. It was about 1 or 2 a.m., and there was not much moonlight along this road. There are a lot of deer and elk, as you could imagine, and you need to keep an eye out at night. That's what I thought. Well, I saw at first. I saw a set of eyes in the distance. You know, that yellowish, bluish glare you see when your headlights are toward a deer, about eye level, or where I was seated in my car. As I got closer, I saw the actual silhouette of this thing, and I didn't know what I was looking at. It looked to be about 7 or 8 feet tall. I'm not good at estimating, but this thing was big. All of a sudden, as soon as I think I'm going to get a good look at this thing, it spreads a set of gigantic wings and flies away. I pulled over and just watched it fly toward a heavily forested area toward the summit of the mountain. After that, it was gone. I didn't see it later that night or even again on any of my travels. I've tried to research into similar stories or any stories from that area, but came up dry. The closest thing I could find are the stories of the Mothman. But I'm not sure if it matches my description of the creature or if I was in the right environment. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are many Native American reservations around. The biggest being the Navajo Reservation, just being a couple of hours south. That being said, the next best idea is that it was a skinwalker. Being Native myself, I understand skinwalker in a deeper way and have had many encounters of my own, but that were much more explainable. If you want to call it that, I don't think this was a skinwalker. When a skinwalker is around you, you get overwhelmed with its dark feeling power. If you know there were no such feelings, just lots of confusion. I just wanted to see if anyone has an experience with a creature like this or from this area. For more reference, the closest towns were Pengritch, Utah, Richford, Utah, and Beaver, Utah. Okay, what do you think about that, folks? Interesting, huh? Very, very strange. Do you think he actually saw the Mothman? I mean, let's reread what he actually saw. So my treatment like that. As I got closer, saw the actual silhouette of this thing, and I didn't know what it was. I was looking at it. It was around 7 or 8 feet tall. I'm not good at estimating, but this thing was big. All of a sudden, as soon as I think I'm going to get a good look at this thing, it spreads its set of gigantic wings and flies away. I pulled over and just watched it fly toward a heavily forested area toward the summit of the mountain. Okay, not much in the description of what he actually saw. It had wings, and it had eyes. Well, that it doesn't really explain what he saw. So, as we understand it, the actual Mothman looks more like a bat creature or a bird creature, or it might be several different creatures. If you think about if you talk about the winged humanoids that have been basically talked about on this site before, with this site basically claiming that they've been talking to these winged humanoids, the seen ones and the unseen ones, or something like that. This could be what they saw. That's if this. Basically, this thing was an ultra-terrestrial, some sort of mystical creature, like a fairy or something. Is that what this guy saw? He said he didn't think it was a skinwalker because this thing didn't feel malevolent. He just had only confusion looking at it because he didn't know what he was looking at. And that's an odd thing. So this guy said he was startled and confused by it, but he didn't feel like it was going to try and kill him, or maybe he said he just didn't know what he was looking at. Yeah, that's an interesting story. It makes you think, what could he possibly have seen, huh, folks? Let's move on to the next story. Let me see. I recently received a telephone call from an eyewitness, Junior, who claims she observed a huge winged creature in Lou, Utah. All right. Let's give this girl an accent. This incident occurred in the summer of 2017 on a very hot, clear day. Approximately midday, Junior states that she had stopped for a traffic light, or should I say JR? Well, Junior here, a traffic light when she noted several Sandhill cranes flying across the sky in front of her. She says that she was about 200 feet away. Apparently, this is a nesting area for Sandhill cranes. She watched. She saw a large, dark-winged creature descending towards the cranes. As it got closer, she was astonished by the size. It was definitely avian in form, with feathered wings that she estimated around 20 feet or more. Junior has a biology degree, and she is well-versed in the local avian wildlife. The monstrous bird literally snatched one of the Sandhill cranes, rose up, and ascended on a thermal. It quickly headed off and away from the area. Junior said that she noticed a band of white color on the front edge of the wings. She likened the shape to that of a golden eagle, but that the body was smaller in comparison to the huge wings. She also said the massive bird was at least 4 times the size of a Sandhill crane. All right. Or she says to the Sandhill cranes, huh? Junior said, or maybe I should say JR said, that she noticed only one other car at the intersection, doubts that they witnessed the events. Maybe I should just call her JR, huh? She contacted her professor and asked for his opinion. He was flummoxed and told Junior that she must have misidentified the bird. She is positive of what she saw. Junior has made many attempts to identify the cryptid bird, but has been frustrated. She found me on Google and called to retell her observation. All right. That's interesting. So we have giant birds that are being seen. What do you think about this cryptid corner, folks? We're talking about flying monsters, flying humanoids, atmospheric beasts, giant birds, and possible just giant flying creatures like the Mothman. Let's see, read more of this article. I would say around June 2013 in Salina, Utah. I was walking under a street lamp with a friend. He was talking and I was looking at the stars. As we walked under a street lamp that was also shining light upwards, plain as day. I saw a flying humanoid, head, body, and arms, legs almost flying almost like a human. Fly about the street lamp, partner, flying about 10 feet away from the edge of the asphalt road, 30 to 40 feet off the ground, flying in the opposite direction as we were walking. The creature was traveling south on the west side of the road. The height, I would say, is around the size of an adult human. Its arms, legs, and body were athletic looking, but looked like it hardly had any muscle. It had 5 fingers, like us, but had 3 toes. The toes narrowed down to a point like a cone or triangle. It had 2 wings, one coming out of each shoulder. The length of the wing was about the length of the creature's arm. The wings were narrow and had very little surface area. I did not see the creature flap its wings to fly. Its wings looked too small to support its body, plus the body was parallel to the ground and was elongated like it was laying down while flying. The weight of the hips, legs, feet should have been sagging towards the ground. It had small hooks like things that came off from the creature's legs and mid-calf area and faced outward. I did not see any breasts or a penis. I don't know what sex it was. Hopefully it does not reproduce, but I'm sure it does. I have told many people about what I saw that night. Most people don't believe me, although I did run into a guy that saw one. I'd say the same species of the creature. He was camping also around Salina, Utah area. It flew down, swooped at him, and made a creepy noise. And my original post is below. Okay, that was another interesting story. Now, this one gave us description of what this creature was. It sounds like this creature was in some weird outfit. He says that it was humanoid. It could be some sort of flying gear this guy was wearing. It didn't flap its arms, so maybe it was anti-gravity. Or maybe it had something like that on it. A witness reports seeing, as we get back to this article, a witness reports seeing a gigantic black manta ray flying across the Provo, Utah sky. This sighting led to further reports of this bizarre cryptid. The following account was forwarded to me by Danny M. Stewart. Posted this information at his site at Utah Stories. About 11 years ago, a woman shared an interesting story with me. Late one June, she was walking along University Avenue a little after 10 p.m. and near 300 South when she saw a gigantic black manta ray flying across the Provo sky. This thing was 400 feet in the air, coming from the southeast and flying northwest. It had a 14-foot wingspan, and its body and tail were probably 25 feet long. It flew directly over the Provo City Tabernacle, now a temple, eventually disappearing into the sky. I didn't put much credence in this sighting, but I decided to share it on my ghost tour anyway. The original Provo, Utah ghost tour with Danny B. Stewart. It was Lark, plus there are similar stories of strange flying beings found all over the world, but this was a rarity for Utah. A one-time event, or so I thought. In 2013, another woman presented with me an almost identical story. She saw something in June of 2011 that was that was the same size, shape, and was flying the same trajectory. It even appeared around the same time as the other one. Years passed, local ghosts and beasts stories were told, and I began to grow tired of telling the Manta Ray story. I was about to retire from my ghost tour completely, but in September of 2018, I was standing in front of the Provio Temple giving one of my tours, actually talking about said beastie, when one of the attendees began to look a little bewildered, almost worried. My girlfriend and assistant Tara approached him and he says to her, I saw it just recently this year. He saw something much like the Manta Ray climbing on the side of the old tower of the Utah Valley Regional Medical Center. I'm paraphrasing here and basing this on what Tara told me. He relayed to her. It was big and black in color, climbing on the side of the building like a bat would climb on the side of a barn door. It climbed to the top of the tower, leapt off, and flew into the night towards the northwest. I have tried to get more information from this gentleman, but he has been reluctant to share anything further. Funnily enough, another person came forward a month later with another sighting of a flying ray, although this sighting was not in relation to the Provio beastie again. I was giving a tour and talking about the ray when I saw a young man whispering in amazement to his girlfriend. I approached him as we were walking to the next ghostly location, and he told me he had seen something exactly like I had described while he was surfing in California. He said it was huge and soaring in and out of the clouds. There was an overcast. He watched for over 15 minutes as it would appear and disappear within the clouds until it flew out of his sight. He had never told anyone about what he had seen because he was afraid people would make fun of him. He also had nothing to base what he had seen on. This is the case for many people who have experienced extraordinary events or have had sightings of what we can only be described as ghosts or monsters. People all over the world are seeing and encountering things that have no place in their historical or mythological memory, banks to fit in, so they sit on them. Nevertheless, if these people are to be believed, and if they did indeed see some kind of large flying animal above Provio, Utah, then what is it? Oh, yeah, Utah sky. Then we have another beautiful cryptozoological mystery on our hands. Update from Janie Stewart. August of 2019, I was in the midst of an appointment with my ear, nose, and throat doctor at the Utah Valley Hospital, formerly Utah Valley Regional Medical Center, for a pre-surgery appointment. While we were talking, my doctor asked me what I did for a living. Formerly Utah Valley Regional Medical Center, huh? Okay. For a pre-surgery appointment, while we were talking, my doctor asked me what I did for a living. I explained to him what I do, and he asked me to share one of my favorite stories. So I told him about the Manta Ray. Naturally, he thought it was an extremely interesting, especially since my story directly related to some much-needed light he was about to shed upon the mystery. Sometime before they raised the old hospital, construction workers discovered a large colony of bats living in the crawl spaces at the top level of the old hospital towers. Apparently, for years, hospital employees and patrons have been seeing a large group of bats flying to and from the top of the hospital towers at night. Always either from the southeast or out to the northwest, stopping at the tower and leaving the tower and flying northwest, the same trajectory as the giant flying Manta Ray. This revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. Of course, this is what people have been saying all these years. This is beautiful, I said out loud very, very giddily. I asked my doctor if I could use this information. He said, of course, as long as he could remain anonymous. And so here we are. You see, this is true cryptozoology. This is how it's supposed to work. We aren't always looking for a literal dinosaur in a lake, or in the case of a monster, a manta ray soaring through the skies of Provio, Utah. In this case, people were seeing a colony of bats flying to and fro, and sometimes these bats took the shape of what people thought was a giant flying manta ray. I love what I am, both the father and the unraveler of this piece of local folklore. And even though we know what this critter was, it doesn't make the story any less important to folklore. Danny B. Stewart is a researcher, performance artist, teacher, lecturer, and professional storyteller. He hasn't seen the giant flying manta ray yet, but whenever he's in Provio, he's always looking up. Okay, that was fun. But we also have this story up here. Flying manta ray observed in the U.S. Northern Plains. All right. Eyewitness in the U.S. Northern Plains discusses their observation of flying manta rays and the characteristics noticed during the sightings. Have you had similar sightings? All right. In planes, eh? Let's read this story. I thought I was hallucinating when I first saw them. It seems that not everybody can see them. My kids and I can. My wife cannot. I have not been able to capture them on camera, and infrared seems to have no noticeable effects capturing images of them. The flying manta rays are translucent. They can best be seen at dusk and at dawn on the higher altitudes at 6,000 feet plus. It's like looking for a shiny speck in the sky. You can sometimes see through them through scopes or binoculars. I haven't figured out what they eat or if they even eat or drink. I haven't seen any signs of reproduction or mating. They seem to like to play in the wind currents or on a lightly breezy day and play like fish. I think the black, blue, and gray colors indicate that they have an illness. Sometimes they can be seen in the wake of migrating birds and airplanes. It seems that they swim through the sky and can move at incredible speeds. Casually from others, I heard of some large ones that circle over the ocean. I haven't been able to rule out if they are reflections of critters in the sea or an actual species in the sky. I think there are other types of flying ghost fish-like creatures that swim in the sky. Attached is a map of the areas where I had the best luck seeing them. Let's look at this. Look at this map, huh? Yeah, here it is. As I said before, leave me a few chats, folks, because I want to hear your ideas in this. Note: EB's observations are very similar to other witnesses, especially the undulating flight movements and occasional translucency observances. So possibly another flock of bats, possibly, maybe. Or maybe some other flying animal like birds. Could be. But probably bats. But then again, maybe these are actual monsters as well. Let's go back to this article. Many times it does seem that only specific individuals are able to see these anomalies, much like the signs of the winged humanoids. It is my theory that these are some type of bioform craft, possibly of an extraterrestrial origin. Your thoughts? Interesting. Let me go down here. We got a few more articles. I want to see if there's this. Let's see. Eyewitness response to the winged humanoid project. Okay, we also have this article right here. All right, but what do you think about that, folks? We looked at that. Another strange bunch of flying humanoids and creatures seen. Think they're real or not? Don't know, but they're highly fun to talk about. And now we have this about the eyewitness, the winged humanoid project. The three-winged humanoid flying being accounts submitted to me by eyewitnesses in response to the winged humanoid project from North Carolina, Texas, Arizona. I recently received the following response to my request through the Winged Humanoid Project. Eastern North Carolina, around 2004 or 2005, a buddy and I were on his driveway in a small town suburb where we were building some stuff to skate on. We were using power tools and no one else in the neighborhood seemed to be outside at the time. 7 or 8 at night and dark out, his neighborhood did have some street lights and it wasn't super dark yet. I remember distinctly he was using some sort of loud tool when he just stopped suddenly and looked up at me as a weird sense of uneasiness hit us both, but without speaking, we were looking at each other, confused. Now, all of a sudden, all of the neighborhood dogs started running around and barking, including my friends, just doing circles and barking like crazy. Suddenly, we could hear a noise sounding like a huge flapping sound like you could hear with a sail on a sailboat. We both looked down the street and could see a figure emerge just above the pine tree tops, probably about 50 feet high. A huge winged creature, probably about 7 feet in length and a wingspan of around 12 feet. Hard to really tell because of the distance. It was flying quite fast, a bit faster than any bird. It flew directly over us. Its wings flapped over the driveway with a force strong enough to kick up the sawdust that surrounded us. It disappeared over the top of his house and scared the living, S out of us. We ran inside and grabbed his dad's shotgun and stood in his bedroom until his parents got home. We didn't share the story with many people because everybody that we did share it with acted as if we were crazy or delusional, but it was 100% happened. We didn't bring it up much anymore, and I hate when it does come up because it still gives me the chills. A couple of months back, me and one of my older cousins were standing outside of my house. This is the next story, by the way, folks. Let's get back to it. He was having a cigarette. I'm not a smoker, but that was always reluctantly called outside every smoke break. It was about 9 p.m. and being 4 cigarette breaks in, we pretty much ran out of things to talk about. I opted for just looking into the night sky and gazing for the Big Dipper, it being the only star I could typically spot right away. I should say stars right away. It's a group of stars, not just can't just call, it's not, the Big Dipper isn't just one star, it's a bunch of stars formed into the shape of the Big Dipper. All right, let's get on with this article. As I'm looking up, I noticed a dark silhouette literally about 10 feet from the top of my house. I live in a 2-story home, so 10 feet from my roof is pretty high up. But still close enough for me to still see. I could vividly see that it was the shape of a person flying above my home and over across the street and out of sight. It moved smoothly across the sky, not so fast, just as a glide. I stared in disbelief, unable to speak. Long after it vanished behind my neighbor's home, I still looked up in its direction, trying to understand what just happened. When I finally was able to gather my thoughts enough to talk, I turned to my cousin, who was also looking at the sky, and said, "Let's go inside." He put out his cigarette, and we both walked into the house and sat in silence for about 5 minutes. The silence was broken by the sound of my cousin taking a deep breath before asking me, "Did you see something flying outside?" Before he could finish, I burst out into a rapid sentence about what I saw. Before I knew it, we were both going back and forward, barely letting either get a word out. We decided that what we saw was real, and it really did happen. That's not the most terrifying part, though. A few weeks later, after my mind had finally calmed down a little, I stumbled across a TV show on Destination America entitled Monsters and Mysteries. I believe the second episode I watched turned out to be based on sightings in Austin, Texas. I couldn't believe it. The episode was about flying humanoids being spotted here in the city. It confirmed for me that what I saw was actually real, and I hadn't been one of the only ones who spotted it. Whether you believe me or not, do some research or laugh it up and accuse me of being on drugs or watching too much Jeepers Creepers. I honestly don't care if you believe me or not. I still look into the sky on most nights. I know they're still out there. All right. Whew, what do you think about that story, folks? This guy saw some flying humanoids, and it's very odd. Do you think these things are intelligent? Do you think they're extraterrestrials, or do you think they're ultra-terrestrials? Do you think they're from this planet, or do you think they're from beyond this planet, or from this planet? I don't know, but this is so fun to read these stories and to learn more about them, huh? As I said before, folks, feel free to leave me a few chats. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Remember, the there in the title is misspelled. It's THERE. It's Read Comics They're Bad For You. If you want to watch this stream again, go to past live streams on my YouTube channel, or use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777MegaChris1. That's at 777MegaChris1. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. All right, let's go read a bit more of this. Let's read the next part of this article. Just talk to my buddy tonight. The phone for a few minutes while we were walking. I asked him where he was. He said in the desert of Arizona at that exact moment. Just for the heck of it, I asked him if he had ever saw any weird UFOs out on those open highways driving at night. And this was his reply in his own words. "No, I have not seen anything like that, but about 3 months ago, I was out here driving, and it was late at night, and I was in the desert. I noticed something on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was someone wearing a raincoat. It was about 5 feet tall, shaped like a human in black. As I got closer to it, spread wings out and then went straight up into the air. It did not flap its wings or anything like that, but it just went straight up and out of sight very fast. I was like, whoa, no kidding," he said, and he thought about it and then told me maybe it was a condor. I am like, no, man, those kinds of birds have to get kind of a running start, and it takes them a few feet to get up off the ground. It is too bad for he did not get a better look at what he was actually looking at before it took off. As we were talking, his signal started to come in and out, so I had to let him go. I am going to try and talk to him this weekend when he is back home. All right. All right, that was fun. Let's see, possible skunk ape, possible looking back in Crash Paris accident. Large black or cryptid canine encountered. Unseen ones in the explanation. The unseen ones and the winged ones. Have I talked to this article? Talked to you guys before on this? Don't know, but here's a picture of one of these winged ones. Apparently, look at this odd-looking creature, huh? It appears to be very weird. Let's read it in this bit. As promised during the November 19th, 2021 Arcane radio broadcast, I am providing an explanation and list of the entities now in contact with the Phantoms and Monsters Fortune Research Team. Fortune Research Team. After the July 22nd winged humanoid sightings, this is a group I've read about before and stuff. Them basically they're in contact with these creatures. I don't know if it's true or not. It's interesting. Well, all we can say is that this is an interesting story. I don't know if it's true or not, folks. But is it true? Who knows? 22nd winged humanoid sighting at O'Hare International Airport. It was soon become apparent that these unknown beings wanted to make contact with us. As a result, members of the Phantoms and Monsters Fortune Research Team started to receive revelations from the unseen ones and in turn encounters with the winged ones. The unseen ones are the elders of the faction. They are a conglomeration of species and councils. They are also advisors and watchers. The unseen ones were the initial contacts with our team members. The winged ones are younger members of the faction. These are the winged humanoids that are seen on our Earth plane. Their presence is similar to a rite of passage, a life stage that they are required to complete before they can ascend to the next level. They appear in different form when we are on our Earth plane, namely as dark-colored or black entities. These entities describe themselves as by gender as well. There are males and females. They also have told our members that their social system is matriarchal. To be fair, their hierarchy and power structure has not yet been detailed. Their dimension has been described as having a reddish-orange-colored atmosphere with dark volcanic peaks. There are oceans, seas, and lakes similar to our Earth plane. They live in a dome-shaped homes. These species of ultra-terrestrial entities have a story to tell us. Little by little, their message is coming forth both intuitively and visually. As time progresses, we hope to disclose a long history of interaction between them and humans and to present why they are now making themselves known. Here's more pictures of them. Okay, this is interesting. This one looks like he's carrying a big stick, a walking stick or something, like a wizard or something. Think it's true? I have no idea. I find it's cool and stuff and interesting to talk about. All right, let me go back over here. All right. There's also a new Pentagon UFO investigation department here. They'll probably also basically investigate flying humanoids as well. We could look at that article as well. Let's see. All right. I know there's a few stories here. Making sure I know. I'm going to make sure I got everything here and stuff. I'm just making sure this. I have a few more stuff to talk about. What do you think about this, though? Do you think these people have seen these things? These flying humanoids, flying witches, flying monsters? As I said, we could look at this article. New Pentagon UFO investigation departments here. They're sure to investigate this stuff as well. You know, not just UFOs, but flying humanoids and flying monsters. So we could look at that. But first, let me go over here and basically do this. Look at flying monsters. Flying monsters. Might look at flying humanoids. We already talked about humanoids a bit. A catalog of creepy flying monsters. Mothman isn't anywhere near alone. Let's take a look at this one. My previous article on the subject of just how many unknown apes there might be in our world, the answer is this. There's a lot of them. Bigfoot and the Yeti and so on are far from being alone. With that in mind, I thought today that why not write an article revealing some of the lesser known monsters of the winged and flying types. Of course, the Mothman that terrorized the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia from 1966 to 1967. I'm pretty sure I haven't read this article before, folks. And stuff like that. It's from 1967 is the most famous flying monster as you'll see now. There are many more. Africa or was the domain of more than a few large winged flying monsters. A wealth of such stories comes from the Bungani. Interesting. Well, think about that. Here's realistic. If I've read this article before, folks, I'm sorry and stuff like that, but I'm going to read it. The Biogani Karaned tribes of Zambia. It's largely thanks to early 20th century. Yeah. And by the way, I'm sorry if I mispronounced those people's names for who they are and stuff like that. Let's see. Let's get back to this article now. To an early 20th century explorer, Frank Millen, that we know on the accounts of these immense and fearsome flyers. Millen's sources and the tribes told him that the most feared of all the monsters of the sky was the Kangamado. Its name means overwhelmer of boats. The name is a very apt one, since it had the habit of swooping down on canoes and savagely attacking and killing those within. It was a huge beast that lived in and haunted in the Januta swamps, and which deeply terrified the peoples of the area. As for the appearance of the Kangamada, it looked somewhat like a bird at first glance, then it early lacked feathers. However, and the fact that its red body was leathery looking was a membranous. By the way, folks, I'm pretty sure I haven't read this article. Because I don't remember reading this, and this looks interesting. Let's get back to it now. And had wings far more befitting those of a bat, suggested it was something else entirely. Moreover, its immense mouth was filled with sharp teeth that could slice a man in two in an instant, which is not something typical of the average bird. Yeah, definitely. This is interesting. I'm pretty sure I have not read this article, so come along with me as we read it, folks. As we look at a bunch of flying monsters and have some fun. Huh? Here's this. Look at that thing. This is interesting. Let's get back onto this article. Moving on, how about Bat Squatch? It's a terrifying, malevolent, hair-covered humanoid that sports a pair of huge gargoyle-like wings. It was a diabolical beast and carried by a young man on the night at Saturday, April 16th, 1994. The location was southwest of Buckland, Washington State, and with Mount Rainier. In the background, interestingly, Mount Rainier was another strange, now famous aerial mystery attached to it. It was over the mountain on June 24th, 1947, that a pilot named Kenneth Arnold encountered a squadron of strange flying vehicles that, when the media got a hold of the story, became famously known as flying saucers. Meanwhile, back to 1994, the man who became the unfortunate witness to the terrible beast was Brian Canfield, who at the time in question was driving his truck to Camp 1, a settlement in the area, which is situated near Lake Kippiswin. All was normal until Canfield's headlights began to fade. That was bad enough, but in mere moments, his engine completely quit and his vehicle silently coasted to a stop at the side of the road. All thoughts of what he could do, and on a lonely stretch of Washington State Road at around 9:30 p.m. went totally out of the window when an infernal monstrosity loomed into view. Canfield could only look on in terror-stricken as a large, dark-colored humanoid descended from the black skies. It did. All right. That's interesting as heck. This guy had a big monster come out of the sky at him, or rather land in front of him. Bat Squatch. Woo-hoo. Now, folks, I do believe in the supernatural. And Bat Squatch, do I believe in him? Now, you understand, a lot of people have said that Mothman one of the most flying cryptids are well is more or less maybe a bat creature or a bird creature, or maybe just a big unknown bird, because a lot of people describe it as that, not maybe a flying humanoid at all. Now, if you see this as a lot of people can misconstrue things. A bat squatch here could also be maybe a misidentified aerial or unknown animal. Remember, I've seen bats that at least have a 10-foot long wingspan that do exist. Maybe not 10 feet long, but are huge. Especially when you put their basically when they get their wings out to fly. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone looking at a creature like that and seeing this out on the road would think it was something like bat squatch. Because a lot of the stories about bat squatch don't mean that it's a Sasquatch with bat wings. It just means that it's just a giant flying bat. And these kinds of things do exist. They might be basically the size of your dog, basically when their wings are folded up. It's about 4 feet tall or so, or maybe 3 feet tall, but its wings but its wingspan is around 7 or 8 feet. So if you see the creature out there, especially if you've never seen one of these bats before, I wouldn't be surprised if you thought it was a bat squatch. And if one of these, and it might be rare, or no one's ever heard about one of these bats reaching North America, because they're about the South American species. But I wouldn't be surprised that there is an unknown bat species, or if one of these creatures got out and was flying around North America. That's what you'd have with the bat squatch here. Let's get back into this article, though. Is it? Yeah. Where was it? Terrible. Yeah. Meanwhile, however, back in 1904, the man who became an unfortunate witness to the where was it? There's Kenneth Arnold. Yeah, the man who became the unfortunate witness to the terrible beast was Brian Kernfield. At the time in question, was driving his truck to Camp 1, situated near Lake Kapaska. It was around normal. It was normal until Kernfield's headlights began to fade. That was bad enough, but in mere moments, his engine completely quit, and his vehicle silently coasted to a stop. That is odd for anyone seeing. If this was just an ordinary animal, I suppose it would be basically there was more of a chance of someone seeing it at night because if your engine cuts out, because maybe the animal would basically be, go around your area because it wasn't hearing any engine and stuff like that. And it probably thought there was no one around to basically see it. So I can imagine if you saw a giant bat, it would probably be more likely to see if your car basically stalled out on the road and stuff like that, and you coasted over to the side and then got out trying to fix your car. And then you saw this bat because the bat thought there was no one around. It didn't hear any cars, so it thought it was safe to travel. All right. Yeah, headlights. Yeah, moment. Yeah. His vehicle coasted to a stop at the center of the road. All of thoughts of what he should do on a lonely stretch of Washington State Road at around 9:30 p.m. went totally out of the window when an infernal monstrosity loomed into view. Let's read this part. Kernfield can only look on terror-stricken as a large, dark-colored humanoid descended from the black skies. It did so in a curious semi-gliding, semi-flying fashion, finally coming to a rest right in front of his vehicle. Kernfield was unable to move. Such was his level of terror. All he could do was grip the steering wheel and stare in stark terror at the beast. Sorry if I reread that part before, folks. I had to read it again because I lost my place in the article because I wanted to talk to you. But let's get back in this and see what else is going on. The beast before him. Yeah, in stark terror at the beast before him. Thankfully, the thing was soon gone. Now let's head out to the UK, to the United Kingdom, huh? Feel free to hit that like button, folks. One might be forgiven for thinking that signs of a large winged monsters only occur in the skies over large forests and jungles and above remote mountains. Not so, in fact. Guess we're going to be talking about the Owlman now. Far from it, in 1984, just such an unearthly beast was seen soaring over the capital city of the United Kingdom, London. The specific location is Brentford, a town situated within West London. The day in which all hell broke loose was hardly of the kind one might expect to associate with a monster. There were no dark and stormy skies, no thunder and lightning, and no howling winds. Instead, there was nothing but a warm, pleasant, sunny day in March. The man who kicked off the firestorm of the controversy. Are we going to be talking about the Owlman? I don't know, folks. Let's look into it. It could be a different kind of monster as well. Kevin Chippendale, who at the time was Kevin here, was walking along Brentford Brimer Road. As he did so, Chippendale's attention was drawn to something strange in the sky. It was some sort of large flying animal. Not the kind of thing you see every day, to be sure, and in decidedly synchronistic fashion, it all went down in the skies directly above a local pub called the Griffin. It was the imagery of a legendary griffin of ancient mythology that Chippendale most associated with the thing he briefly encountered. It was winged, fork-tailed, and sported a mean-looking talons and a dog-like muzzle. Chippendale could do nothing but stare in awe and in shock and terror. Two now, what about a pterodactyl? Imagine driving late at night across a foggy moors of central England, coming across what looked like nothing less than a living, breathing pterodactyl. Think it couldn't happen? Ellery has, from 1982 to 1983, a wave of sightings of such a creature, presumed extinct for 65 million years, occurred in an area called the Pyrenees, better known as the backbone of England, and comprised of rolling hills and mountains. So far as can be determined, the first encounter occurred at a place within the highly apt name of the Devil's Punch Bowl on September 12th, 1982. That was when a man named William came forward with an astonishing story of what he encountered at Sheepley Glen Woods. It was a large, gray-colored creature that flew in haphazard style and which possessed a pair of large, leathery-looking wings. The latter part is noticeable since it effectively rules out a significantly sized feathery bird, and it does indeed place matters in a pterodactyl category. 72 hours later, a woman named Jean Schofield had the misfortune to see an immense beast at the Fort Yorkshire town Eden. That thing was heading for the Leeds Bradford airport, provoked fears in Scarfield's mind of a catastrophic mid-air collision between a passenger plane and the mighty winged thing. Luckily, no one was killed. On to another affair. All right. How much more of this do we? Oh, not much. The controversy all began in late 1975. That was when the population of Mocha plunged into a collective state of fear. And it was, it was hardly surprising. Numerous ranchers reported how their farm animals were being violently slaughtered under cover of darkness and systematically drained of massive amounts of blood. The first area targeted was the Borough region, where several goats, at least 4 pigs, numerous chickens, and much more than a dozen cows were all found dead, with puncture marks on their bodies. Sounds like the chupacabra, except this one flies, huh? And deep claw-like wounds on their skin, and all missing one vital ingredient: blood. Villagers. Okay, this might be cattle mutilations. Villagers and farmers were outraged as they were terrified. Local authorities, and chiefly the police, tried to defuse the controversy by attributing the attacks to nothing stronger than the works of packs of wild dogs, a theory that almost inevitably was received with nothing but scorn, skepticism, and disdain. By the end of the first week, March 1975, the death count was close to 3 dozen. It was in the same week that an important development was made. The blood-sucking culprit was finally seen up close and personal, so to speak. The witness was a woman named Maria, who caught sight of a monstrously sized, screaming and screeching winged beast that landed atop her home, which clambered about her zinc roof, making an almighty racket in the process. And it was clearly no normal bird, around 4 to 5 feet in height. It was described as being similar in appearance to a pterodactyl, a presumed extinct flying reptile, Jurassic era. Whatever the true nature of the monster, it quickly took the skies and vanished into the darkness. And vanished. Okay, that was an interesting article. Come to the end of this live stream, folks. That was fun. Please, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? The there in the title is misspelled. It's THERE. Yeah. Go to past live streams on my YouTube channel if you want to watch this video again, because YouTube tends to bury my videos. Or you can use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777megachris1. That's at 777megachris1. Leave some comments down below. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell and hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications. Hit that like button and please share this video out. Also, folks, please go over and subscribe to the YouTube channels Stitched Together Pics, Robot Co-op, and Creepy Little Book. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock p.m. or maybe 8, 9, or 10 o'clock p.m. for another live stream. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you.